It's funny, sometimes I find myself waking up uninspired to get out of bed. And when that happens, I might unconsciously start to indulge in things that bring me pleasure, because I feel like human beings are only driven by a vision or by pleasure. You are either pushing yourself forward toward a goal that you have put inside of your head of a possibility that you might be able to experience in the future that would be more fulfilling than the highest level of pleasure in the moment right now. Those are the only things that we ever live for. We are either living to enjoy this moment, or we are spending this moment to enjoy the future more. And if you only live for pleasure, then the future will be the same as the present. And as long as pleasure is all you want, then maybe you don't have a problem with that. But I think the problem is, even if you are experiencing the height of pleasure in this moment perpetually, it stays the same. And if every single day looks the same, human beings are not fulfilled, because change is the constant of this universe. Change is what keeps things exciting. And we have to be changing for the better every single day to be fulfilled as human beings, as well as many other things. Sometimes I wake up and I am not excited to start the day. I did not put a vision in my head of what I want the day to look like, and I start to live passively, and I start to indulge, and then I start to feel depressed almost immediately. And I think how you spend the first 10 minutes of your day might just set up the entire rest of the day. We have to be driven by a vision of our own futures. And maybe that vision is unrealistic, but maybe that's the best type of vision. They say, shoot for the moon and you might end up among the stars. Some of the greatest things that have happened to me in my life were not necessarily things that I had envisioned, but they were things that came from the driving force of a different vision, because it's that movement that gets you there, that gets change. I feel like change is the only constant, and whatever comes is always building upon the past as long as you are always pushing forward. But you have to be happy to do so. I find that very ambitious people are usually very hard on themselves, and that doesn't necessarily make you fulfilled as a person. Because if you whip yourself for not being good enough, if you're just never good enough, then when do you ever get to enjoy the fact that you're an accomplished, ambitious person? I think that in order to be a good father for yourself, of course you have to push yourself to try harder, but then you have to supplement that with encouragement. And every once in a while you have to take a second to pat yourself on the back and be glad for who you were in the past and be glad for where you are right now. And there's always things to be grateful for that you've done in the past, and there's always things that you'll be ashamed about and guilty of in the past. At the end of the day, I think your emotional state is just a conglomeration of every reaction that you've had to who you were in the past that accumulates over time. And I think we must take time to clear that out and mold our own perception of ourselves to be one that we are happy with. I think that happiness is a choice that we have to work really hard for. And it's funny because I say that, but it's really hard for me to want to not be hard on myself, because I feel like there's something innate within ambitious people that are like, if I am easier on myself, then I won't accomplish as much. But what's the point of being hard on yourself and accomplishing things if you're never going to sit back and actually enjoy who you are? I think it's simply just a choice, although a hard one, to just choose to change how you feel about yourself and your past. And then I think if you do that, then perhaps what you're carrying around, instead of a lifetime of problems and bad experiences, it could be a past full of things that you choose to see as good things. You could be carrying around a lifetime of happiness and good experience and accomplishments, and it's just a matter of perception. And then when you wake up in the morning, you are not tired from a lifetime of burdens, you're happy from a lifetime of good experiences. And I know it's easier said than done. I think everything comes down to the past, future, and present. Perhaps an oversimplification, but when you wake up in the morning, how you feel is based on the past. How you feel right now is based on how you choose to feel and how you chose to feel. And your future is based on both of those things and how you choose to move forward into the future. If you go about your life objectively based off of mental health with a conscientious nature, you realize that emotions are simply a reaction based off of choice. They are not always a reaction based off of choice because we are not always in control of ourselves. However, we do have the choice to breed emotions that are desirable and we do decide on. So we can choose to move into the future with hope and positivity. We can choose to live in the present with hope and with peace, with accomplishment of the past. And these are all just thoughts, perhaps just tools that in the face of all of my fear and shame and guilt, maybe aren't always the solution. And I think that other emotions perhaps are even better tools to deal with those emotions. But I feel like you really can turn this all around. If you take anything from this, I really think that you can decide right now to change how you see yourself, how you see your past, your future, and realize that it's not necessarily your circumstances that dictate how you feel, and what you want isn't necessarily more or less problems. More money, less problems. More power, more social status, more money. Maybe I'd be happier. Or once you have all those things, you would feel like you now deserve to give yourself happiness. It's a choice. And what is happiness? Maybe it's something fleeting that takes a lot of work. Maybe that's just an oversimplification of the lack of the burden of other emotions. I think that joy is probably better than happiness. But man, how do you sustain an emotion like joy? And when I say joy, I imagine a kid playing on the playground with his friends. I think that you have to sustain an attention within the moment that's so captivating that you are only within the moment. You are so engaged in what it is that you are doing that there's no such thing as problems. There's no such thing as the past. There's no such thing as the future. Here you are, playing on the playground with your friends, and there's not a worry in the entire world until your teacher tells you you have to do homework later, and you might be thinking about it for the next 4 hours, and you will only allow yourself to be happy once that problem that you've projected into the future has now been taken care of and you don't foresee any more problems, homework, or whatever it may be. So now you are finally able to sit within the moment and enjoy. So I think the key is to be so fully engaged in something that you forget. And what is it you forget? I think you forget you. You forget the self. There is no longer an echo chamber. There's no longer layers of self-reflection. There's no longer thoughts in your head taking your energy. You are just simply raw awareness within this moment, engaged in a task that is pulling your attention. You are so stimulated that there's no such thing as even you. And I think that it's our self-consciousness that really breeds all of our problems. If you live purely within the moment, there's only so much that you really need to experience. I feel that we often suffer more in imagination than in reality. It is really our thoughts that take most of our energy. So I think perhaps a good practice would be to clear the mind, and I think that's an obvious one. Clear the mind, but also find something worth engaging with fully, something that you can surrender to fully. And I think there's a lot of people that have that, and there's a lot of people that don't really know what that is. I think I'm trying to find that still every single day. But I do know I'm capable of sitting down and reading a book for a long period of time, and for that time I forget that the world even exists, and then I think you could say that I have given myself happiness for a short time. And if I were to quit reading that book and wake up to the world and tell myself, okay, like now you have to worry again, then I think then that feeling would go away. But I think if I could maintain that feeling of living so within the moment that I could maintain a more desirable emotion, then I think I'd be moving forward in my life with something much more powerful than shame or guilt or fear. Because I feel like when you are existing in that emotional state of any of those emotions I just listed, then you are moving into the future with an unfavorable attitude. You might make decisions that aren't necessarily the most reasonable. I think that emotions are the most powerful things on this planet because they are what dictate human decisions. And humans are capable of huge decisions. Often you don't even realize how big the decision is until you look at it in hindsight. If we were always our best selves all the time, then our lives would definitely be better. And I think that being your best self just comes down to forgiving yourself of all the burdens that you carry around with you from your past. And then I think project into the future a vision of what you want, and then do what you feel like it takes to get there. Of course, stay humble for more opportunities to become a better person, because you must expand your horizons and become more than what you are all the time. And of course, that takes surrendering what you are, being willing to change. I think the best quality of a human being is being willing to change, because at least then you're improving all the time, and nobody's perfect, but at least if you're improving all the time, that's as close to perfection as you might get. And I think the human being is better when he is trying harder, and I think a being is trying harder when he enjoys it. When you're doing something you truly love, then you are your best self. And I think those are the things that make you want to sacrifice what you are. When you are consciously sacrificing what you are, moving forward with passion, engaging with the present moment fully, involved in something you love dearly, that is the peak of humanity. And I think that's where everybody is moving towards. We are all striving for that, although we don't even know it. And I think what that gets you is freedom and power. Where is this all going? If not more power? And what's the reward? Freedom. Because the more powerful you are, the more freedom you have. And freedom means the ability to be more, to live more fully, to express yourself more genuinely, to get more out of every circumstance, to be who you want to be, to do what you want to do. This is the ideal that we should all be aiming for.